This is one of the representatives from Next Generation Z. Now, not only, Nick, are they sending $45 million or initially going to be pledging $45 million, they're also going out and doing what AOC did. And that's going out and giving lip service and painting Joe Biden as some sort of great progressive, as some sort of candidate that has accomplished so many great progressive things. Oops. Okay, there we go. All right, ship play now. Let's listen. And this is MSNBC. And let's listen.
His re-election bid, a progressive group full of young voters also announced, "We're with Joe." NextGen America declared that they will invest $45 million to send young voters to battleground states and $11 million on ads for the general election. The group's main focus is to tackle climate change, racial injustice, inequality, and to save democracy. And to do that,
Nick, is the Democratic Party doing anything to solve any of those problems right there, Nick? The answer is no.
So their job is just to gaslight people. That's what it is.
Yes. That's what this is going to be.
They believe that President Biden will be their best bet. Joining me now is Cristina Sinzun Ramirez, President and Executive Director of NextGen America. Cristina, it's always an honor to have you join the show. Let's talk about NextGen endorsing President Biden really early in his campaign before anyone else jumped into the race. Why such an early endorsement from such a powerhouse organization like NextGen America?
Exactly. Isn't that the same question we asked about Bernie Sanders? And it's the same question you asked about the 2020 election. Why are you showing your hand that you support Joe Biden already? What are you going to get from it?
Exactly.
Just ridiculous. But back to the video.
Yeah, well, in 2020, we had the largest youth voter turnout in American history. My organization helped mobilize 1 in 9 of those young voters who helped elect Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. And we want to do it again because this administration has delivered on progressive policies that young people care about, whether it's on climate change, gun safety, student debt cancellation, or marijuana reform. They have
He literally has not delivered on any of those. Marijuana reform, Nick. Nobody was in prison, Nick. Zero. Student debt reform, that's about being overturned, intentionally set up as a house of cards. The climate change, she's talking about the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, which was like having a boat that's sinking and one person putting boat into the boat, water into the boat, and then one person taking water out of the boat and put it in. It's like it's one hand washing the other. And understand, from this IRA comes the Willow Project, guys.
Yep.
So selling out the future of their own generation, Nick. I know you're going to chime in. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, this is shameless lying from the Gen Z group. And can you imagine who this person's parents probably are? They was like, she's the CEO and director for Gen Z for Change. I am asking you guys this question: what school do you go to? What do you have to do before to get appointed to such a position? Like, are you a specialist at something? Like, what did you do that led you to be the CEO, the representative for Gen Z? Not a goddamn thing. This is someone who was propped up by their class to be the representative of this youth, and they're gonna lie for the Democrats in the way that we supposed to hate Republicans for lying. Because as you point out here earlier, the lie she's saying about Biden is no more ridiculous than the shit you guys hear about Trump regarding MAGA. As far as this is political fan fiction that she's saying, and this presentation where she's saying all this stuff without being challenged is exactly why we are the most propagandized country in the world. Blatant misinformation.
And we have to point out how identity politics is being used with this organization. She is clearly a woman of color who's put out there, but understand, just like Michael Brooks in that video we show all the time with Vivek Shabir, even people who are people of color who are advocating, they're in the middle class. This is overwhelmingly middle class. So PMCs, they can be of any class. It's not just white PMCs that are advocating for these sort of class sort of teaming up with the Democratic Party. It's PMCs of all races, including this young lady right here.
Have delivered more so than any other administration that I can remember in my lifetime. And we need another 4 years because there's a lot more that we need to get done.
Oh my God.
So, Christina, I wanted to ask, because last week you tweeted, quote,
go ahead.
I'll be quick, but there need to be social consequences to this shit. I remember when I had my viral tweets calling out the Gen Z kids, there was a few accounts I saw in my mentions that wasn't worth bringing up, but it was like, oh my God, why are you picking on these kids? And they was like, oh my God, these Gen Z kids being bullied. Yes, these people need to be bullied. And trust me, this shit is not going to work on the Gen Z. Like when we do these, we said it before, these are not anti-Gen Z segments. These are anti-Democratic Party segments because the people who see through the most on this is Gen Z. The people who clapping around to this shit is boomers. Fucking online Democrat boomers and Gen Xers. They're the only people that fall for this nonsense. They need to be ostracized, and they need to be in the working class. Need to be militant on picking on people who are class traitors. There used to be a time. Now people are too queasy of this, but during the initial labor struggles back in the day, during the 40s and 50s, people who were caught crossing the picket line, they got their ass beat. Now, let's say
the good old days.
Let's say for the sake of our YouTube channel that we do not advocate for that. But let's say that class traitors back in the day openly got their ass beat. Now violence is never the answer. People run never-ending military budgets and police budgets. So I'm gonna say throw it out there. We don't support it as a channel, but Gen Z, you guys need to handle your class traitors. We need all the class traitors. Anyway, go ahead, Cecil. Hey.
Now, further in the segment, same topic, just a different video. This is also MSNBC and discussing a focus group who want Biden to debate Marianne Williamson and RFK. This is Chris Jensen says Biden's challenger barely registered in poll. I think they're referencing Marianne Williamson. She's jabbing at Marianne Williamson here. Let's listen.
There are new questions today about whether President Biden should debate his 2024 Democratic primary challengers, even though they barely register in any polls. A new Axios focus group.
That is such a shot. That is such a shot. That is like they want us to debate, even though they're not even registered. They're barely registered in polls.
Now she
obviously can't be talking about RFK, but go ahead.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up because to show how ridiculous she's being and ridiculous the establishment is being, they've been propping up Ron DeSantis as the legitimate challenger for Donald Trump. But Ron DeSantis is polling literally around the same as RFK Jr. right now. You guys know that? Literally they're both around 20 to 22%. So according to the establishment, Ron DeSantis is a legitimate challenger to Donald Trump, but RFK is not, even though they're polling around the same. Once again, we know this is another example of them telling on themselves. They know this shit is rigged. That's why they can speak about it with such certainty, right? The same when they do Ukrainian segments where they're like, "Yeah, we're sure that the Ukrainian people to get the weapons they need." They say that because they're part of the establishment and they know the United States is gonna do that shit. The same way they say Marianne Williamson and RFK don't stand a chance is because they know the system is gonna rig it against them. And in hindsight, I should have picked that up when I supported Bernie. When they were so confident that Bernie was gonna win, it wasn't gonna win. Back then, I was naive. I was like, "We show you." No, nigga, they knew. Yeah,
they show you. They show you.
Anyway, we can.
All right, here we go. Here.
Voters in the key state of Georgia, all of whom voted for Trump in 2016, but Biden in 2020, found that everyone on the panel thought Biden should debate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. or any other prominent challenger.
They don't even want to mention her name.
This group is a small sample, but they're hardly alone.
Yeah,
there has been criticism of the Democratic National Committee for not planning any debates from within the party, including from former Obama cabinet member Julian Castro, who was on this program yesterday.
The DNC, have a lot of respect for him, like a lot of the people there. But then deciding that there will be no primary, no debate, I think they actually need to give Joe Biden a chance to get out there and show the American people what he can do.
Joining us now,
Look
Axios
what's
political
normalized.
reporter
CJ, pause
Alexi
it real
McCammond
quick.
and
Let me
Olympia
pause it. Yeah,
Johnson, a
absolutely.
political
Before-
strategist
wait a
and senior
second.
advisor for polls.
There we go.
Isn't it hilarious how fascism is so normalized in our society? He brings up a good point. Where he's like, "Yeah, man, I think Democrats should be allowed to debate." What's the guy? What's that guy's name again?
Julian Castro.
Castro,
Julian
Castro.
Yes.
Julian Castro makes a good point where he's like, "Man, I think the Democrats should be allowed to debate." But before that, he's like, "Yeah, I know people in DNC. I like and I respect a lot of people in DNC. You do." Now we know why. I'm making a point. We know why because he's a Democrat, right? But how can you square that circle? You see how easily Americans square that circle? Yeah, I think you should stop being a fascist and allow democracy. But I actually like those people. You like fascists? You like people who are anti-democracy? Now ask him a question about Putin and watch how he's like, yeah, Putin is the worst. Putin is the worst evil tyrannical maniac ever. Meanwhile, you're literally talking about people who are canceling democracy like they're your good friends. At what point do we draw a line? At what point do we say you're a fascist? I don't respect you. That's civility politics. That's why you're not allowed to say that. Let's continue.
All right, now let's get to I won't preface her, but if you remember this face, she's been in a viral story before, but she's back with this story. With this reporting.
Political reporter Alexi McCammond and Olympia Johnson, a political strategist and senior advisor for Biden's 2020 campaign. Great to have both of you here. Alexi, this is nothing new. Neither party has held primary debates when their incumbent is in the White House since the 70s. So this would be essentially a break with long tradition. So I'm very curious about what this focus group told you. Why did they think Biden needs to debate?
Yeah, and I appreciate you highlighting this, and obviously the usual caveats, right, that it's 11 voters. But in the past 4 focus groups we've done before this too, the big thing that has come up is, frankly, Biden's age and how that's a problem with these voters who are more independent-minded and looking more toward the person rather than the party. A lot of them want to see him debate RFK Jr. or any.
So I got to stop here and insert this, Nick. This whole age thing that they're trying to make it seem like,
exactly.
Oh, this is just a scapegoat instead of talking about policy why people don't like him. They're trying to make it seem like it's young people who's bringing up age when it's them who want to keep focusing on age as the reason why young people don't like him. It's 2 reasons. It makes people go, see, this is how young people just being shallow. They don't have any real critiques. Exactly. They're just saying he's too, no real critiques. It's for that point. And it's also for that, so they don't have to talk about all the things that people they don't like about him that would stop them from voting, like the Ukraine war. Go ahead.
That's such a great point, CJ. It's this 3-dimensional propaganda.
Right.
They pick the critique, so none of the real critiques are aired.
Right.
How many segments have we done, CJ? Talking about Biden's age. 1 in 2 years? One, and I'm being generous. I say 1 because I'm like, did I forget 1? Maybe 1 in 2 years.
Man, we didn't cover it as an age. We covered it as this is a terrible critique on him. It still wasn't even us covering really age. It was still we still had the same critique that this is not even an effective critique. I mean, what are we really talking about here, man? JFK is not exactly young. Marianne Williamson is 70. What are we talking about here, really, Nick? You see how this is not really the critique that they really want to talk about? Go ahead.
Yeah, and it shows how shallow our politics are, that liberals in our establishment promote this. Because to be clear here, guys, I will vote for someone, I don't care how old they are. They got good ideas. I supported Bernie Sanders. When I was part of the Bernie Sanders campaign, I remember when the age question would be brought up, like, dude, that's the least of my concern. So let's say Bernie Sanders, when I was supporting him, let's say he won and he died in office. Okay, we picking him because he selects our cabinet. He make a government official picks. So even if he dies in office, we want an administration with his values. So even if Bernie or someone dies 2 years in, I want Bernie to be able to pick the head of the FDA and all these things. Like, these are why you want to support someone. Obviously, I don't support Bernie now, but this is the general argument. If Rome was 88 years old, I'm not passing on voting for Rome because he's 88 years old. I'm like, this is a motherfucker with great ideas, and he will hire great staff, and he will put together a government that will enact his agenda. That's why the age argument is never effective, because it's about who you want in government. So even that person doesn't last that long, as long as he hires people that share his vision, the age is irrelevant. This is the argument I used to make all the time with Bernie, which is why the age is not concerned with Biden. The ideas are a concern. Okay, if Biden dies, we get Pete Buttigieg and Kamala Harris. What changed? Nothing fucking changes. That's why I never critique the age. Like, you critique the idea. So it's a weak argument in general to make. But anyway, continue, TJ, if you want.
Any other prominent Democratic challenger who might jump in, because they say they want him to prove his mental fitness for office, but not just him, that's anyone else on that stage. They also say that if other folks are running for the same party, they want to know what those policy differences are, what the policy similarities are. These folks obviously voted for Biden in 2020. They're not really interested in having him run again this time. So they're looking to an alternative. And that's in part why they want to see him go up against someone like RFK Jr.
In fact, Valencia, let me read to you.
I think, Nick, and we're going to get to another clip. I think, Nick, that even them allowing for this discussion to even be on corporate media is because there could be some people who are saying in the establishment, because don't think that all the establishment agree on everything. They could be saying, look, Joe Biden does look weak. I don't think he's going to beat against against Donald Trump. So let's have him compete in primaries so we can see how good he's going to be. We need to see. We just saw how Trump is, and he's going to destroy people. So let's see. So there could be a small group of, people with power that would like to see this. But for the most part, the ruling class and the Democratic establishment, I'm not sure they're going to bow to the pressure unless they also see like, wow, Joe Biden may not win this. I think
it depends on the polls. I think it depends. There's that Rasmussen poll, which is I want everyone to be careful with that, because I saw a lot of people freaking out over that. That poll, because RFK was like at 40 something, Biden was at 40 something.
Yeah, I'll bring it up. So, because I had it as a receipt, and I wanted to bring that same caveat, so you can continue with the caveat. So we're gonna.
People need to realize it's not representative of a Democrat. Like if you look at the polling methodology, like, and trust me, guys, I saw this shit. I was like, oh, that's hype, but we gotta be real. Yeah. This is not really representative of the Democrat Party primary process based on the people they asked. But my point being, if there was ever a real poll, like inconsistent polls that show RFK is close to Biden, they are canceling that shit. There's no doubt in my fucking mind they are doing that. There was a story from the New York Times written after Nevada, when Bernie looked like he was going to win, where the Democratic Party said we will tank our entire party before we screw our class over, before we turn it over to someone who's a threat to the military industrial complex. And RFK is a giant threat to Moderna and Pfizer. They will 100% destroy the Democratic Party if it takes stopping him. So if they see polls where Biden at 70% and RFK is like at 8 to 10%, then yeah, they may allow primary process to happen. But if there's any chance of it happening, I would bet a lot that they will cancel it, and they already show signs that they are. The fact, and that's why I think there's value in watching like people like Jen Psaki and Morning Joe and like rank propaganda, because they accidentally let the intentions of the establishment slip. When Simone Sanders is shit-libbing it up with Jen Psaki and people with Morning Joe, and they talking about canceling primary debates, that's the message that the establishment want to get out there. They're showing their hands. But CJ, you can continue.
So this is a different clip just to scoot through this segment so we can close it. This one is talking, or I'll let it, because it's a short clip. I'll let it speak for itself.
You saw the ABC Washington Post poll, and did you? I mean, I guess how worried should Democrats be about the public concern, growing concern about the president's age and his effective ability to do the job?
Large numbers of Democrats actually didn't want President Biden to run again.
Right.
In trial heats for the Democratic primary for president, the president was getting 40% or under. Said that 60% of Democrats had real doubts about him running for a second term, and a 36% job approval to that. And boy, you got to have a lot of nervousness. That's maybe why they rushed that early announcement to freeze the field and prevent prevent further deterioration within the Democratic Party.
But we still got, a year and a half or so before the election, and 9-10 months before the first primary. What's it going to take for some Democrat who's not RFK Jr. or Marianne Williamson, a serious Democrat in the sense that it has a serious chance to say, you know what, I'm going to challenge Biden, even if it's risky personally. We just have to have a new change in leadership.
I think realistically, some Democrats are going to look at this probably around July. If Trump is beating Biden by 6 points in a head-to-head presidential race, and the president is under 40, I think you could see some Democrats get in. They really need to make a decision July, August, the latest, in order to have an effective organization in the early primary.
And once one governor would decide to get in,
you think they're going to do the South Carolina strategy again? Because I didn't think about this.
Oh, hold on.
It's kind of unpredictable. Generally, in challenging.
There we go. I was on the wrong screen.
I didn't think about this till now, but can you see them doing the Joe Biden South Carolina strategy again? Remember, you asked the question why there's some people who may be comfortable doing a primary process. South Carolina is first, and this guy mentioned that around July, Biden the week they may introduce candidates. What happens? And I don't know the answer. I'm asking rhetorically. What happens if a bunch of people jump into this race and they do the South Carolina strategy again, especially considering South Carolina is going to be one of Biden's stronger states against people like RFK and Marianne Williamson? What happens to the election if Biden win that first state by a blowout? Like, does all the other polling matter after that? Like, what would change people's perception and be like, oh, I guess Biden's the guy? Like, there are a lot of questions, and that's the guy brings something interesting. Like, the establishment do that again, and then people will run with no intention of being Biden, right? They running just as people to siphon support away from people who, them Democrats say they don't want to see Biden win again, right? So you introduce like another Amy Klobuchar-like character, Gavin Newsom in there, try to siphon 1%, and many people you came from RFK, and then do the South Carolina strategy all over again, especially with the Bernie progressives going to bat for you. Will RFK be able to overcome that? I think it would be obviously I don't think it's possible. That's going to be very tough. We see they got a lot of tricks to throw at RFK, and even if they do, if RFK can't overcome that, I think they would just fucking like. I think there's so much shit should have happened to it. I can't even say without getting our YouTube channel pulled. But if there's a situation where RFK have more Democrat support than Biden, they will just change the vote counts. And I'm gonna stop there. That's what I believe. There's no way they're gonna let it go. There's no way. They will just win the votes. They're gonna fucking do it.
Let's put it this way: a meteor will come down and change that shit. Okay, it's not happening. All right, it's about 20 seconds left in this video, maybe 15. Let's listen to the closeout here.
Probably not. Although it's a kind of unpredictable. Generally, in challenging incumbent presidents, usually that's a pretty lonely field. So I'm not sure that 10 people would get in at all. I think it would be most likely 1 or 2.
Okay.
So I got one last receipt for this, and then I'm done I guess we're both done for today. One last receipt, Nick, and I say it's a slight treat. Meet the Press. Like I said, they're in full, not just Meet the Press, but everybody's in full like panic mode about Trump, in particular in that town hall, what he said about Ukraine. They're trying to act like what he said about the accuser in the civil trial. What they're trying to make it like, oh, what did he say about this in January 6th? But they know what landed the most was Ukraine. They know that, and they're in full panic mode. Let's listen to Meet the Press. This was one of their longest intros I've ever seen, Nick. This is just the intro. So, Nick, it's about 3 minutes long, and then we can comment. I'll let it play all the way through.
Yeah, go ahead.
This Sunday, Party Boss. Donald Trump previews his vision for a second term, an agenda that proved divisive with swing voters in 2022.
Would you sign a federal abortion ban into law?
What I'll do is negotiate so that people are happy.
After a town hall peddling election lies, promising to pardon January 6 rioters, and refusing to pick sides in the war in Ukraine, his 2024 rivals remain largely silent.
Can you say if you want Ukraine or Russia to win this war?
I want everybody to stop dying.
As the field of challengers grows, can any of his rivals take him on without alienating his supporters? I'll talk to former Republican Congressman Will Hurd of Texas, who's considering his own bid for president.
Yeah, right. Get out of
Plus,
here.
moral compass. After a jury found Trump liable for sexual abuse, his opponents mostly silent.
I just don't think it's where the American people are focused.
Does character matter anymore for Republican primary voters?
You got the audacity to ask that
The
question.
editor-in-chief of Christianity Today. And border crisis.
I want to be very clear. Our borders are not open.
As the Biden administration braces for a surge at the southern border, it's Democrats that are divided.
I oppose the Biden administration plan to end Title 42.
This is
Will
Democrats,
the president
guys.
listen to his base
Jesus
or
Christ.
political center? I'll talk to Democratic Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut. Joining me for insight and analysis are New York Times White House correspondent Peter Baker. Political.
As he introduced these people, I'm including it. You tell me if you're getting a different perspective here.
Playbook co-author Rachel Babe, Republican strategist Al Cardenas, and Kimberly Atkins Storr, senior opinion writer for the Boston Globe. Welcome to Sunday. It's Meet the Press.
So I'll stop it there. We don't need to go any further for copyright. I'm sure they'll copyright some of that. But the point of why I wanted to insert that, because they covered many topics that's kind of coming into focus. The thing that's happening with Trump could not, the town hall, like they didn't know the polling was going to come out the same day. But all these things kind of converging at the same time, and they really don't know how to effectively address it, which is why I think there's leaving an opening for them to even talk about Joe Biden being replaced, and how that guy in that segment was like, July is kind of a pivotal month where they're going to be like, hey, if we don't see no change, we may have to just say, yeah, we're going to do debates and let the governor of Detroit come in, let Gavin Newsom come in and put their feet in this pot here.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, this is gonna be this election is gonna be a shit show, and I think this every election, say since 16. But I hope seeing Biden versus Trump too, because that's what's gonna happen. Will finally make people throw their hands up. But there's something that told me that won't happen. Because I've been saying that. I said that every election since 16. You know, like maybe this will be the one that would. Nah, it hasn't happened. But, I don't know, man. I hope it's just becoming so obvious that this is a political fraud, especially now you have Democrats championing the same policy that apparently made Trump a fascist. Title 42 that doesn't work, Title 42 being in place, and we have this quote-unquote migration problem. So by ending Title 42 is going to work. The whole discourse is unserious. If you want to slow and end the migration crisis, lift U.S. sanctions, end U.S. imperialism, stop financially strangleholding our enemies. And these are things that will drive down migration, but it's not a fast fix because we are going to suffer the consequences of U.S. foreign policy for quite some time. So they got to make up some bullshit. You got people spreading nonsense, including a bunch of black capitalists that Biden has an open border. And this is the point I didn't make last segment because I was rambling too much, but I'm making it here now. They keep saying that Biden has an open border, despite the fact that Biden is spending $6 billion more on DHS and Customs Border Enforcement than Trump. So what are they really saying? Let's look beyond the initial talking point. Why is it so crazy to say Donald Trump had an open border? Can you imagine saying that? Can you imagine how much someone would be ridiculed if they say that? But Biden deported more people than Trump, spent more at the border, but he has an open border. For one, this is going along with the red-blue game, but also this is the capitalists admitting that their strategy to address immigration is not working. So if you're one of the people that is all for funding DHS and ICE more, you need to justify that $26 billion. So we spend $26 billion, there's still a giant migration problem. It's almost like there's a more effective way we can handle the problem, like ending U.S. militarism. But Americans cannot wrap their mind around this fact, especially the more right-wing people in our country, that just throwing money at the border, throwing money into authoritarian government programs will not solve your problems. The same way that they think throwing money at the police will solve crime, throwing money at the border and ICE and DHS is not solving the migration problem, as shown by the Biden and Trump administration. So at what point do we actually advocate for or even start to brainstorm serious solutions about this problem? We won't. We will continue to get unserious segments as we've seen, unserious op-eds by black capitalists trying to get us to hate undocumented people. There are very serious solutions to this problem that no one in politics is discussing because it strikes to the core of militarism and U.S. politics.